Story 1. That one fish species that only lives in a creek inside a cave in the middle of Death Valley is the Devil's Hole pupfish. Story 2. Cheetahs have a high metabolic rate, are highly specialized to hunt a single prey species, and have a low hunting success rate. They have a very low reproductive rate and take a long time to reach sexual maturity. They are vulnerable to predation by larger predators and to having their prey stolen by scavengers. They can be driven off their kills by vultures. As a result of hunting, habitat loss, and disease, cheetahs are endangered and have become highly inbred. Story 3. The sloth, despite being remarkably slow and seemingly defenseless, has survived by turning laziness into a survival strategy. Story 4. Horses are held together by spit and duct tape, and many things can kill them. A broken leg is often fatal. Eating too much, eating too little, eating the right amount but rolling too soon, or ingesting sand can all be deadly. They are amazing animals, and mustangs are incredibly resilient, but I do not understand how they did not die off given all their stomach issues. Yes, poor feeding and around-the-clock stalling are the biggest causes of severe colic, but some cases are genetic or random. Why are they like this? Story 5. California condors are ancient creatures adapted to the Pleistocene era. Their niche as scavengers of megafauna has not existed for thousands of years. This is an example of a species surviving well past the era in which its evolutionary traits appear to be relatively most competitive due to a larger prevalence of megafauna. I do not mean to imply any evolutionary flaw in the condor. Thanks to those who corrected me and who suggested the clarification. Story 6. Hyenas. Given how they give birth, I have no idea how they survived. Story 7. The kiwi bird, New Zealand's national bird, has legs too weak for its plump body, cannot fly or run fast, and requires moderate temperatures to survive. Yet this small bird has existed since the age of the dinosaurs and still persists. A true survivor. Story 8. Those goats faint when they get startled. How the fuck did that become a trait that was passed down? Story 9. Honestly, sloths. I love them, but the fact they're still around feels like both a miracle and a glitch, laughing out loud. Story 10. Ocean sunfish are so derpy. Story 11. Horses. 1,000 pounds of high-speed prey animal energy on toothpick legs. Ridiculous. Story 12. Chinchillas are very sensitive to heat. A sudden increase in temperature can cause them to collapse and die. They should not get wet because their fur is very dense and can become mildewed. Chinchillas often eat their own feces to extract remaining nutrients from their food. They are fragile animals. Story 13. I love horses, but it is wild to me that mustangs or feral horses survive to adulthood without human intervention. They are barrels on toothpick legs that need all 4 feet to stay sound, so if one gets injured they redistribute weight to the others, which can cause laminitis, also called founder. If it gets too cold or too hot, or if something stresses them, they can get colic. Horses are obligate grazers and have a one-way digestive tract. If gas builds up, they cannot vomit, so you must hope they pass it rather than twist their gut and die. If there is one nail in a fence slightly poking out, that horse will find it and use it to injure themselves. At the same time, a mustang can eat dry desert shrubs and survive on very sparse forage, and can have a piece of barbed wire around a leg for years and still make it to old age. Again, I love horses. They are beautiful, wonderful creatures, but sometimes I do not know how they survived when they seemed determined to injure themselves in foolish ways. Story 14. Kiwi birds. I was in New Zealand in 2024 and a local said, "God made them deaf, blind, and dumb. No wonder they are almost gone. They are very adorable, but invasive predators have decimated them. Kiwi have poor eyesight and hearing and did not evolve with land predators, so they lack fight or flight instincts and often do not respond to danger." Story 15. June bugs. How can something so uncoordinated manage to breed? They literally fly into the side of my house. Story 16. Many animals would still be here if humans did not exist. Rhinoceroses, elephants, and tigers would number in the hundreds of thousands. Whales, dolphins, and sharks would too. We have caused more extinctions than nature has, even dodos. Story 17. Horses. Let's put a battering ram's worth of mass on 4 very skinny legs and hope that nothing bad happens during the process of growing to adulthood. Story 18. Pandas are a species with several unusual reproductive and dietary traits that complicate conservation. In captivity, they often show little interest in mating. Zoos sometimes play mating videos to encourage pairing and, in some cases, give males sildenafil to assist. Females are fertile for only about 3 days each year. They may also experience spontaneous abortion in response to stress or disturbances, which can make artificial insemination results variable. Pandas are classified as carnivores and have the physiology of meat eaters, but more than 99% of their diet is bamboo. Some bamboo species contain cyanide compounds that are toxic, and pandas lack the digestive adaptations typical of herbivores. They often prefer bamboo from the region where they were born, so zoos import bamboo from those areas in large quantities. Mothers typically rear only one cub. When twins are born, zoo staff may alternate the cubs between the mother and an incubator, swapping them so both receive feeding and maternal care. Mothers generally do not notice the swap. However, the main threat to pandas is human activity. Habitat destruction from deforestation and urban expansion is the primary cause of their risk of extinction. In the wild, pandas do reproduce, but the short fertility window and rearing of a single cub at a time limit rapid population growth. There are fewer than 2,000 wild pandas in China today, which is an improvement over previous numbers. Humans are primarily at fault, but pandas do not make conservation easy. Story 19. Humans. Half the population is cheering the rapid destruction of the planet and the continual support of systems that funnel 90% of the resources to 10% of the people. We do not adapt to our environment. We manipulate the environment to adapt to us. 90% of people would die within a few weeks if the electricity that powers the world failed. Story 20. The wording of this question is very annoying, laughing out loud. Aside from the grammatical nightmare that is what animal is that it absolutely should. A species does not survive evolution. Evolution is the process by which a species might persist over time. Any species that has evolved did so in response to the conditions it faced. Otherwise, it would not have changed. Any animal that exists today either evolved in a way that allowed it to survive the relevant environmental pressures, or it has not needed to change. So, while I understand the point you are making, there are no animals that should not have survived evolution. There are only animals that survived because of evolution and animals that may go extinct because they cannot adapt to future environmental changes. And animals bred by humans for specific traits, though to be honest I do not know if selective breeding counts as evolution. Story 21. Hoatzins are a type of bird, but scientists are not even sure which group they belong to. Their digestive system is similar to that of cows. They eat leaves that are fermented by bacteria in an enlarged crop. The crop is unusually large and takes up space other birds use for chest muscles, so hoatzins are relatively weak and clumsy flyers. The young have claws on their wings. When a predator approaches the nest, the young jump into the water, swim to shore, hide in bushes, and later use their wing claws to climb back to the nest after the predator leaves. Despite these unusual traits, they appear to be thriving. Slugs are often thought of as sea creatures that have adapted to crawling on land. Story 22. Any of those brachycephalic airway dog breeds, such as pugs, English bulldogs, French bulldogs, and similar breeds. Story 23. Pandas, koalas, and sloths. Watching these species has always amazed me and made me wonder how they evolved. Story 24. Some ancient mammals came to Australia, found gum trees with toxic leaves, and began eating them because no other animals did. The leaves are toxic, which deterred other species. As infants, koala mothers transfer necessary gut bacteria to their young, enabling them to digest the leaves. Koalas have persisted because their food source is widespread and few other animals eat it. Story 25. Sloths have very low apparent intelligence. Sometimes while climbing they mistake their own arm for a tree branch and fall to their death. Story 26. Koalas have small brains and mainly recognize leaves on a branch as food. If you place loose leaves on a plate, they may not recognize them as food. Story 27. Pandas. If your species is forced to watch pornography just to encourage procreation, maybe you should not be around. Story 28. Ball pythons. Every ball python owner talks lovingly about how stupid they are. Their main defensive mechanism is curling into a ball. Mine frequently tries to wrap his mouth around the wide part of a rat and gets confused when he cannot. I do not know how they manage it in the wild. Story 29. Pandas only eat one thing, which is ridiculous. They cannot mate naturally and need to be tricked into doing so. Story 30. Koalas, built like plush toys, run on poisonous leaves and vibes. Story 31. By definition, natural selection means that individuals who survive long enough to reproduce pass on their genes. If something passes on its genes, it has earned its place. Story 32. Honestly, humans, surviving as a species required astronomical odds. That we became the dominant species and spread everywhere despite multiple pandemics, several near-extinction events, and our own incompetence is a miracle. Story 33. If an animal should not have survived, it would not be here today. You cannot blame an animal for being weak if it cannot survive human activity. The rise of human civilization has changed the Earth's surface faster than most natural phenomena. So it is no wonder that many species are becoming extinct faster than they can adapt. The asteroid impact that contributed to the dinosaurs' extinction caused effects that unfolded over thousands of years. Some organisms died instantly from the impact, but many more died later from darkness and cold caused by dust in the atmosphere. Story 34. Pandas' territory is almost completely encroached upon. Those in zoos often do not know how to mate. Story 35. Horses cannot vomit, and if one of their legs breaks, it is often fatal. They do not chew their cud like cows. Even with surgery, many die from uncoordinated thrashing in the recovery stall. They weigh on average 475 kilograms. Story 36. Pandas. Those motherfuckers are lazier than I am, yet they have been able to survive on their own for so long. That's the most absurd thing I have ever heard. Story 37. So many shorebirds. About a month ago, I was walking on a beach and heard a strange noise. I looked up and saw an endangered oystercatcher pair on the sand in front of me. I wondered what they were yelling at me for. I looked down and there was their egg, right in the middle of a fairly popular beach. Not in the grass or buried, just lying out in the open. I had almost stepped on it. Really? You could have picked any other spot. Story 38. Pandas are not even designed for an all-bamboo diet. It is no wonder we cannot get them to mate. Story 39. Giant pandas and koalas are both cute but also evolutionary jokes. Story 40. Pandas. Nearly everything about them works against their survival. They eat a single food source that has very little nutritional value, so they must consume large quantities, yet their digestive system is more similar to a carnivore's. They are solitary, and females have a very short breeding window, making it harder to maintain their numbers. On top of that, they usually raise only one cub, which also does not help their population. Story 41. Pandas reproduce poorly and eat bamboo, which has little nutritional value. They would have died out if they did not look so cute. Story 42. I think human intervention is a major reason why pandas, red pandas, and koalas still exist. Story 43. Have you heard about pandas mating habits? I don't know how they ever reproduced in the wild. Koalas' teeth wear down from eating leaves, and they have no evolutionary adaptations for that. So they may starve when their teeth are too worn. Story 44. Pandas and koalas have highly specific diets that are a recipe for disaster. Story 45. Pandas generally have low sexual activity and face reproductive challenges. They eat primarily bamboo, which has low nutritional value and makes them slow and inactive. They have to spend much of the day feeding to obtain enough nutrition. Although cute, they are often valued mainly for their appearance. Story 46. The ocean sunfish often has dinner plate-sized chunks taken out of it. It survives because it tastes unappealing to other predators, so they often leave it partially eaten. Story 47. Sunfish. The more you read about them, the more you think, Why does nature hate them so much, and how do they still exist? Story 48. The platypus is the only extant monotreme. Story 49. Humans, just look at the mess we are making of the planet and of each other. Story 50. We have little hair to protect us from the cold. We get sunburned in the sun. Our skin is fragile. We are slow compared to most other animals. Our senses are poor, with almost no sense of smell. We have no physical way to protect ourselves against stronger animals. For example, try fighting off a bear or tiger without a weapon. We cannot hunt without tools. For example, it is nearly impossible to catch and kill a deer or a fish without a tool. Not to mention that 99% of us would not survive if we were suddenly dumped naked or without any supplies in the wilderness right now. The only things that keep humans alive are our ability to communicate, to make and use tools, and the fact that we have, through our actions, reduced the threat from animals by killing those that attack us and leaving those that are afraid of us alone. Story 51. Cows. There is nothing you can say that would convince me that those animals could have survived in the wild without humans breeding them and expending significant effort to keep them alive. Story 52. Tarsiers sometimes die by banging their heads against objects when stressed. They are easily stressed. Story 53. Possums have smooth brains and a short lifespan of about 1 to 2 years. They live in a wide range of climates, including snowy areas, yet they do not have insulated paws. When exposed to cold, their defense is to freeze and remain motionless. Story 54. Sleepwalking and snoring humans alert everyone to your location and that of your tribe while you are operating at about 1/4 of your full capacity and are most vulnerable. I have no idea how these traits have not been bred out of humans since day one. Story 55. Kiwis lay eggs that are larger than their bodies, and those eggs can literally displace their ribs. They are probably still alive only out of spite. Story 56. Koalas eat plants that are poisonous to them and need to consume their mother's feces to gain immunity to the toxins. Story 57. The fact that koalas survive to this day boggles my mind. When you hear what rescuers have to do to save them, it is staggering. Story 58. Koalas are not bears. They are marsupials that can carry chlamydia and spend much of their time feeding on eucalyptus leaves. Story 59. Humanity. From conception, our own anatomy is trying to kill us. Story 60. Koalas have small brains. They eat only one thing that has almost no nutritional value, and they do not recognize eucalyptus leaves if you put them on a plate. Yet here they are. Story 61. Koalas eat low-energy plant matter, primarily eucalyptus. They survived while many other species were destroyed by wildfires, and they now live with few natural predators in the aftermath. Story 62. Homo sapiens. Weak and fleshy. Low tolerance for temperatures outside a narrow range. No physical defenses or camouflage. Not fast enough to evade predators. Young are born too early to walk on their own and are helpless. They have been nearly wiped out multiple times by disease, ice ages, and other cataclysms. Story 63. Pandas are bears that primarily survive on bamboo and require large quantities of it. They are fertile only 1 day per year. Humans are investing great effort to prevent their extinction. In China, large conservation facilities, some the size of small countries, are dedicated to their care. Story 64. The platypus is a venomous, egg-laying, duck-billed mammal with electrosensing abilities. It looks like an evolutionary anomaly but has survived for millions of years. Story 65. Pandas still retain a carnivore digestive system, yet for some reason evolved to eat only bamboo, which they must consume continuously to survive. They should have died out millennia ago. Story 66. Humans face many challenges. Women can die from hundreds of complications during childbirth. Human infants have large heads relative to the birth canal, are loud when crying, and it takes years before they stop being toddling, smelly dependents and become somewhat independent. Males sometimes abandoned infants or killed them, so newborns evolve traits that encourage caregiving and resemble adults. Humans also faced many natural predators and competitors, including other humans, and we are not as fast as most of them. Story 67. Pandas are animals with a carnivorous digestive system that have adapted to a mostly herbivorous diet. They have difficulty reproducing because of a low mating drive and a reproductive system that is not well adapted. They are clumsy and adventurous. Story 68. Koalas are so dumb they cannot recognize gum leaves unless the leaves are on a branch. Eucalyptus leaves are very low in nutrients, so koalas must eat large amounts and still sleep for long periods. The leaves are also highly flammable, and Australia is regularly ravaged by bushfires. It is honestly a miracle. Story 69. Koalas are mentioned in the legendary copypasta. Pandas, according to zookeepers in China, literally require assistance to mate. Story 70. The kakapo is a large nocturnal flightless ground-dwelling parrot from New Zealand. It is the world's heaviest parrot, can live for over 90 years, and is critically endangered. Females breed only every few years, often when the rimu tree has a mass fruiting. It survives only because of intensive conservation efforts on predator-free islands. Every bird is monitored, so I will likely never have one. Story 71. Koalas have smooth brains and extremely thick skulls. Sometimes they let go of the tree they are clinging to and fall to the ground. Their diet consists of plants that are poisonous to many other animals. They sleep for 20 hours a day. Story 72. The giant panda is an adorable but vulnerable animal. They eat bamboo, which is low in nutrition, so they must eat large amounts and spend much of their time feeding. One upside is that bamboo grows very quickly. They are reluctant to mate and are known to avoid taking a mate. When they do become pregnant, they typically raise only one cub. If twins are born, they often abandon one. Because of these traits, pandas are at risk of extinction. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.